Everyone, Randy Hawthorne here, executive editor of Nonprofit Hub, and we're here with today's talk. And I have with me Lisa Chmiola, and you have a really interesting title. Tell me a little bit about what that is.
I do. So I am the chief Fablanthropist for Fablanthropy, which is an independent consulting firm. And I specialize in working with organizations on gift planning, as well as working with individual development and executive directors on, again, gift planning type of strategies, major gifts, just whatever it is to help them reach the intersection of fabulous and philanthropy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So this can be a scary topic for a lot of executive directors and fundraisers, the whole notion of gift planning. How do you calm them on this whole thing?
Right. Well, there's a couple of different things that make it a little nerve-wracking. I think one is donors can tend to be hesitant in talking about planned giving, legacy, estate, any of that, because there's a whole psychology around the fact that we all have to realize our time on this planet will end someday. No one really wants to think about that. Dr. Russell James actually has done a ton of fascinating research on the psychology that goes into even what parts of the brain light up when you're thinking about making these type of decisions. So there is that whole concept, but when you get past the fact that we know that we all are no longer going to be here and we're not going to be able to speak for what we leave behind, if you can address the fact of wanting to really help your donors accomplish what is meaningful to them, and to be able to do that in a way while they are still here to make those decisions and plans so that they are carried out in the way that they wish when someone else is executing those for them. That's one. So kind of really, as the fundraiser or executive director yourself, having that comfort level that this is okay to talk about. It's not an easy subject to talk about. And quite frankly, it's also something that could take years in working with a donor from start to finish, from the moment of, oh, I'm thinking about doing this, I'm thinking about including your organization in my estate, to actually finalizing everything. I have had one person in the past that it took 4 years from start to finish. So patience is another thing that is definitely a virtue when working in planned giving.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm just thinking of my own personal planned giving plan,
Yeah.
which was actually forced upon me by my parents. My parents wanted me to have my plan in place so that if for some reason I went before them, there was a channel for it to go to where I wanted the gifts to go. And so that's how I got started on the whole notion of planned giving. And so now I'm all set and ready to roll.
Yay.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a relief, right?
Right. And it felt good, actually. It really felt good to know that I had a plan and I didn't have to think through it. So
Right.
how do you suggest you get started on this if you've not ventured into this area?
Sure. I think the important thing to remember is that you don't need to know everything about every type of planned gift, so to say. I think that's the other part that's a little scary to nonprofit professionals, is they're thinking, oh, I don't know how to deal with trusts, or, oh, I've never dealt with a gift of real estate, so I'm too scared or too nervous. You know, when you think about the fact that most people, when they include organizations in their estate, it's going to be a bequest. They're going to name the organization as a beneficiary on a retirement plan or maybe an insurance policy. Those are the three most common. So I would say familiarizing yourself with how those work. There's a lot of places to go for resources. I think if you're in a community where there is a council or a chapter of the Charitable Gift Planners, it's a national association. They have a lot of great resources both on the local and the national level. So I would recommend that. Again, Dr. Russell James has a lot of information about just working with donors and familiarizing yourself with that, or even just reaching out to other fundraisers in your community who have maybe done this kind of work and networking with them about what you need to know. I think that's a great way to get started too. Just, look for a mentor.
Right. And also most of these people that you're going to be talking to, if they have anything complicated, they have a professional, a financial professional that can also help guide them through. If they say, well, I want to give you land, you know, maybe that financial professional can help you through some of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And, quite frankly, that's a good point that you bring up, that oftentimes these type of gifts that you may be dealing with a donor's attorney, financial planner, accountant. And so kind of being that go-between, but making sure that you're not giving financial or legal advice, making sure that you're always directing them back to their advisor. And then also with some of those more complicated gifts, like down here in the South, for example, and especially back in Texas, things like mineral interests, oil and gas, those type of donations, there are actually firms dedicated to helping nonprofits work through those where they are experts in that line of work. So if it is something that is beyond your comfort level, there are typically professionals to partner with that will help walk you through it.
You know, with all of the COVID in the last year, I've heard a lot about the fact that people are really digging into their wills and estates and all of that sort of thing. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that we've seen. People are maybe a little less nervous about the fact of realizing that it is a good idea to have my plans in place should the unthinkable happen and I pass at a younger age than I hope. And so I think there it's good for us as nonprofit professionals to be proactive as far as maybe including information in some of our marketing, our website, newsletters, emails, things like that of have you considered including our charity in your legacy? Just really letting them know that it's an option. And as you mentioned, it is kind of like a long, soft process. It is something that takes a lot of relationship management. It is something that it's not like the first time somebody sees it in a newsletter, they're necessarily going to jump. Although you may have people who have been already thinking about it that you have no idea. And so they see that in your newsletter. They're like, hey, I have actually been thinking about that. So I would like some help and I would like to know how to include you in my will or different things like that. So
Yeah,
yeah, just being mindful, it's just another way to give, and just having some language out there about it is very helpful.
and regularly having it out there. The gentle
Yeah,
ask open a lot of doors, like you said, that you didn't even know they existed.
I
Well,
agree.
Lisa, you've made me feel a little bit more comfortable about plan giving. I have a few ideas, and after we get off this call, I got to get on some other calls. But thank you for showing up for today's talks. Randy Hawthorne here from Nonprofit Hub. See you soon.